Welcome to Work From Your Happy Place, the podcast that equips you with the knowledge and inspiration to live your dreams and find your own happy place. You will be encouraged by and learn from entrepreneurs and artists who are already working from their happy place, all while pursuing their passion with a purpose. Be sure to sign up for our free weekly newsletter for a recap of the week's guests and a preview of what's in store. We also have 2 special gifts for you: a video, the 5 core principles to living a happier life, and a printable download titled Top 10 Sales Strategies. Go to workfromyourhappyplace.com/free and fill out the attached form to receive your gifts and be added to our newsletter. And now, here's your host, Belinda Ellsworth.
Hi, it's Belinda here. And before we get started with today's show, I'd like to tell you about some exciting things coming soon that I think you're going to love. After over 500 episodes, we've discovered so many tips, tools, and bits of knowledge that we want to share it all with you. So this spring, we are launching a brand new online community and quarterly subscription box. Here's how it works. Each quarter, you'll receive an amazing box full of items to bring you happiness in both work and in life. Each box includes items designed by entrepreneurs just like yourself for your home, office, personal care, and so much more. It will also contain a business book and our Acts of Kindness shareables so you can show appreciation to your customers and anyone who needs to be lifted up. In the months between box deliveries, you'll learn from an amazing community of business owners, including guided trainings on business skills and personal development, a book club that features Q&A time directly with that month's author, and a monthly featured guest from whom you'll learn strategies to grow your own business. You'll learn from one another through our private group, as well as our live monthly Q&A session where you can get all of your questions answered. Sound exciting? How would you like a free 6-month subscription? To enter, get on our VIP list by going to workfromyourhappyplace.com/VIP. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy today's show. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm very excited about our guest today. I have Robert Markowitz with me, musician, attorney, clown. Robert has written personal essays for the New York Times, released 3 children's music albums of original songs, and played thousands of shows. He holds a law degree from Duke University and has worked as a teacher, an attorney, and a clown. Clown Shoes is his first novel. It is my pleasure to welcome Robert to our show today.
Yeah. Hey, Belinda. Glad to be here.
Yeah, what an interesting life. I think this sounds fascinating that you've obviously taken 3 of your life's passions and rolled them into an amazing career. So I can't wait to dive in and hear all about it.
All right. I'm willing. I'm willing to give it all up.
All right. Well, why don't you just tell us a little bit more about yourself, where you're from, and give us a little bit of the backstory. Give us a little bit of the history of your journey.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm from suburban New York, a kind of far suburb of New York City. And my story is like this. I was a reluctant lawyer. I was a criminal lawyer. My mom wanted me to be a lawyer. My dad wanted me to be a lawyer. I wanted to be, important in this world. And so I did it, even though there was a nagging feeling in the back of my head, which is like, this is not really what you're supposed to be doing. But I did it anyway, because I wanted to be an important guy, make money and have a high status, all that stuff. And so I was a lawyer actually in California. And after doing it for about 4 years, I was getting really depressed. I was seriously depressed because it took a lot of energy to keep on doing something that was really important. It kept people out of jail and all that kind of stuff, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. So I kept on having to trick myself. And that was very stressful, to kind of motivate myself continuously to do something that I had really very little interest in doing. So I left being a lawyer, and the short story is that I ended up after 2 years in Mexico, 37 years old, living in my mom's house. She didn't really want me there, Belinda, I'll be honest with you. She was nice.
I can believe that. I do believe that.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a 20-year-old daughter now, but anyway, but I was 37, not 20. And I was in my mom's suburban New York house, and I was depressed, and I was looking over New York Times want ads. What am I going to do with myself? And everything was an office job, and I didn't want an office job, and I just felt nothing going on inside. Like the life meter inside was flatlining. And then I saw this want ad. It was obviously a hokey thing, but it was like, one night we'll train you to be a party clown, and then we'll place you in birthday parties in the New York metropolitan area. Now, for most people, that sounds horrible. I mean, it's low status, it's low, but for some reason, it sparked a little life in me, which had been absent. So I did it, and sure enough, I bought the kit. There was like a $59 kit. And they placed me at a party, and I showed up at that party. And at the end of the party, the 7-year-old kid says, "Bobo the clown," that was me, Bobo the clown. "Bobo the clown, I love you." And I was like, when I got back in my car, I was, wow, I feel happy. And that hadn't happened for a while. So I progressed from I did clowning for a little while, and then I progressed to being a children's musician. And I've been doing that for, way over 2 decades now.
Oh, that is great. So obviously the clown situation must have continued on if that's your first book about.
Well, you know what I did? You see, I wrote in 2015, I wrote an article for the New York Times outlining the story that I've just told you. And it went viral in that about 500 readers made comments, and it was the second or third highest viewed article for about 3 days. And I realized that the whole clown thing really caught people's psyches, the clown image. So when I got that kind of feedback, and some people were like, "You're doing what I always wanted to do. I applaud you." Other people were like, some of us got to work, buddy.
Oh, gee, really?
Some of it, yeah. There were all sorts of comments. They ran the spectrum, and I thought, wow, this is something. I bet I can take this story and fictionalize it and make it a novel. So that's what I did. And the book is called, the novel just released this past June by Heliotrope Books, is called Clown Shoes. And it's available on Amazon, Clown Shoes by Robert Markowitz.
All right. So let's talk then a little bit about, your musical career then with children's work. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, as you might have guessed by my story, at the beginning, I was really trying to heal because I wasn't really feeling anything, which can happen. Yeah. And the two most healing modalities, I guess you'd call them, that I found were children and music. So that was a good thing for me to start to feel. And I found that also spontaneity was very healing to me. So, even to this moment, now I play all over the place. This summer, I'm doing a 5-state tour. It's usually libraries. And I get in front of a group of kids, and I have a sense, just even without any kind of prompting, I have a sense of where I might be able to take this audience. And then I have a huge repertoire, and I just spontaneously go about putting together the show, feeling the kind of vibes of the audience. And that whole spontaneity thing is a very big deal to me.
Okay, wow. That takes some skill in itself, right? To be able to just say, "Okay, I'm feeling this from this audience. This is the direction the show is gonna go." I mean, most people have a playlist and they kinda just know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, I guess that, it's funny because I have ADHD. You've heard of that,
Sure.
attention deficit. And I went through law school, Duke Law School with that. But the point I'm trying to get, so I'm trying to tell you that I have some deficits. But what
Mhm.
I've always been able to do, even when I was a lawyer, I sort of knew what the opposing lawyer was going to say before he said it. So I had a
Okay.
sense, an instinct for things. And this profession uses my instinct. If I had to be doing something that required me to be in the office all day long, that would not really be using the skills that God gave me, or however you want to put it.
Yep. Absolutely. So let's talk about we're gonna come back to that in just a moment, actually, but let's talk right now about one of your favorite performances or most memorable, and if you have one of each that are different, you certainly can share that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know what? I'm remembering a performance that I gave, and I think it was in Scarsdale Library in Scarsdale, New York. It was really packed. Like before COVID, we used to sometimes have 180 people in there, believe it or not.
Wow.
They don't show up in those numbers anymore, even now. But and there was this girl, and I'd seen her before. She was like maybe two or three, probably three. I'd seen her before at other performances because she was sort of one of my regular fans, and she started to dance way back in the back where her mom was, and she just sort of weaved through different people incredibly gracefully without disturbing anyone. And all of a sudden, she was right in front of me. And she was almost like otherworldly. Her dance was beautiful. She was graceful. And she was obviously so caught up in the music. And it just kind of took me to another place. I kind of felt like I'm where I need to be. I'm doing what I'm meant to do. And it felt right.
That's always a great feeling when you get that feeling of, "I am doing exactly what I was intended to do." That is the most wonderful feeling in the whole wide world, isn't it?
It is. And, to get all spiritual on you, I think that we look out like at a beautiful sunset or at like this girl weaving through the different people who are sitting at that show and doing a beautiful, graceful dance. And it's a reflection of our own souls. Like that sunset, it's not the sunset. We're just getting a reflection of who we really are deep inside, I think, when we have those experiences.
That's beautifully said. I think you're right because 5 people could be looking at that same sunset and get a
Yeah,
completely different experience
that's right.
when they're all looking at the exact same thing. Other people could have been watching that girl and been annoyed because maybe she was weaving in the audience and standing in their way. Who knows? But like it's all about your perception and how you perceive a moment in time is what really makes that moment so special.
Yeah, I love that take on it that you just offered. That I totally agree with you. Five people can see totally different things. I agree.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked about skill sets a minute ago. So that is one of our big questions is like we call them superpowers and
Yeah,
we can call them your gifts or your God-given talents or whichever one way we want to call it. We for the sake of the show and everybody on here to understand it, we kind of call it your superhero, your superpowers. What
yeah,
do you think are your skill sets that have helped carry you through all of these different genres of career?
yeah. Well, I think my I mentioned spontaneity before, and I think my
Mhm.
joy in a spontaneous experience is one of my superpowers, skill sets. And I think my ability to read an audience is also a kind of superpower, and it's just just there. I mean, I didn't try to develop it, although I've done, thousands of shows by now, and I guess maybe it has been developed. I, you know, again, people with ADHD, they sometimes have trouble with organizing things, and that's definitely true with me. I have trouble organizing physical things, but the opposite of it is that when I'm concentrated, when I'm really focused, I have like a super focus, and that I think helps me with these shows. At sometimes, especially when you're dealing with kids, you might have some disruptions in the audience. And I find that if I
Sure.
take my concentration and I focus on what I want to focus on, the audience will go with me and they'll focus on that too, regardless if there's, babies crying or a kid acting out or whatever it is. If I focus there, they'll come with me.
That's great. And I think that's right, right? Like that is so true. And I've never heard anyone describe having ADHD in that way. And I think a lot more people, I'm just, it's coming up more and more on the show. And I think more people are being diagnosed with that as an adult, where they were never diagnosed with it as a kid. And now they're realizing, okay, so how am I going to handle this? And I've never really heard anyone explain about the polar opposites, like that biggest weakness is also your greatest strength in another area, like with focus.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
I have to really fight to be organized myself, although I desire organization in a big, huge way. Like I desire it. I know it's going to cause me to perform better. I know that it's going to make my day easier. I know that it's going to save me a huge amounts of time. Like all of these things I know. So it's a desire, but I still struggle with it. And I feel like for anybody listening that does struggle with that, for me, my whole day, like right now, if you looked at my desk, you would say, oh my gosh. But at the end of the day, it all has a place to go. And so I can at least get it there at that point. But I am laser focused when I'm laser focused, like in ways that a lot of people have a very hard time being laser focused with. So I'd never actually heard that take on it ever in my life, but I know that to be true of myself.
Yeah, that's a superpower for sure. Very quickly, back when I took the LSATs for entrance into law school, after I took them, everybody said, "Wasn't that crazy? Did you hear that soccer game outside? That was so disturbing." And I was like, I never
What?
heard any soccer game. I never heard a soccer game.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
just amazing.
But ask me to organize something or segue from one set of activities that require certain materials to another set of activities that require other materials. I'm terrible at it. So we all have our things, right?
Yep, that's right. That's right. So we know as an artist that one of the things that is most important, and this is where in the show, we've got our entrepreneurs and they're really good at certain business skill sets, but they struggle with getting a following. And where I find my artists, that's a strength of theirs, that they love the creativity. They love the audience is everything, right? So what are some ways that you engage or build your audience?
Yeah. That's something that I'm more engaged with right now than I ever have been because I've written this book, Clown Shoes, and I am promoting it. I'm, traveling all over, giving talks and all sorts of stuff like that. And I'm trying to build an audience through social media. But as a musician for children, I sort of had it easy because I would create relationships with different libraries and schools, and they would have me regularly. And I still have that during the school year. So, I don't have to go out and be getting business for myself all the time because Rye Library has me every week and Larchmont Library has me every week and this school has me every week and that school has me every month. And and I have all my time filled in. So now it's different for me. And I'm in that situation that you're describing where I'm blogging, posting on different social media outlets, making appearances. I'm doing your podcast. So this is very new to me. This is new. And I don't have a grasp of it yet, but I'm just jumping in.
Well, I would say, and I do think for people that kind of have a knack of doing it with building keywords, you said, building relationships, consistency, showing up. Those are the things that have always sort of, it's getting in front of people. And at the end of the day, it is getting in front of the people and then nurturing that relationship. So for many ways, we're trying to do this on social media, and people are maybe getting in front of people on social, but they're not nurturing the relationship. Just like you could go up, I've seen many a performer show up, get done, and leave out the back door and never chat with anybody or never speak with anybody and not build any good, strong relationships. And at the end of the day, it is about getting in front of people, but then it's about nurturing that relationship. And I think that it's important to still continue to do that combination of both, because online, like you said about people writing on that article, people will act and say things online and like not seeing you face to face that they would never say to your face.
Definitely
ever.
True.
Ever. Oh my gosh. So for all of our listeners out there, and including yourself, I just think it's important for people to understand this whole engagement thing is about engagement.
Well,
it isn't just about, yeah, go ahead.
What you're saying really resonates with me, Belinda, because as I say, this is new for me. I have a career as a musician where I almost never have to call anybody. The work comes in because I've been doing it for like 27 years now. Okay. But right now I'm doing something new, which is I'm walking into libraries and nobody's ever heard of me. As far as an author, nobody's ever heard of me. Nobody's ever heard of my book. So I'll walk in. I have about 25 library talks scheduled this summer, and I've already done some of them. I walk in and there's 5 people there. There's 7 people there. And, and then I'll do my thing and I'll, perform and do my presentation. And then this inner voice inside of me, not the deep inner spiritual voice. I'm talking about the ego voice. It's saying, okay, who's going to buy a book? Are they going to buy a book? And then people are coming over to me and they want to really interact with me and they're telling me about their lives. And I just watch that chattering voice saying, who's going to buy a book? No, I'll let him talk because you can't shut him up.
Right.
But I do my best to focus on the person who's just come up to me. She wants to tell me about her life. She wants to tell me about her writing. And I want to be there because experience is everything. If I'll either sell books or I won't sell books, but I want to live my life. I want to have these experiences,
Yep. You will sell more books through relationship than you will through content any day of the week.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I would suggest, if you're not already doing it, maybe you are, but you need to take the audience that you have, which is this audience that's so used to watching you perform, and 100 people will show up, and those are the people that need to be invited to this talk about your book.
Right.
You gotta blend those two instead of separating them out.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And that's going to be more possible once I start doing these closer to home presentations.
Gotcha.
Right now, I've been up in Massachusetts. I've been in Connecticut. I've been all over the place where people don't really know me either way. But I'm going to start to do them closer to home. I've got a whole bunch of dates lined up, and those people do know me. So you're right.
Absolutely. But you want to know what? Every single one of those people that know you know 250 more people. So you should be reaching out to them, say, hey, if you got any relatives or friends, I'm going to be in Boston and I'd love you to send them out. They'll do
Yeah.
that for you.
I'm learning, Belinda. There's a
I can't help it.
natural.
I just am
No.
feeling it. I'm feeling it. I just like, I want to give you a couple of ideas because it's just
Yeah.
it's just really, you know what? It's not easy when I was just having this conversation with my son today, and he's starting his own business right now. And we were talking about the business that he came from. And of course, he's been around me his whole life in sales. But the way we did things, and he was talking about his ex boss, and the way that you did something for 25, 28 years isn't the exact same way that you do it today.
Yeah.
Now, there are things from that that need to be carried over that I think a generation that is doing everything online and is not building relationships or learning good customer service or any kind of relationship with the client is missing the boat. And I love that he's integrating both, but if you just do, it becomes hard when you've done something a certain way for 28 years or 25 years and that was your success model, very much myself too. And now you're thrown into, all right, now I got to do it different. And
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a learning curve, quite honestly.
Well, it is. And, you know, look, of course, I want to succeed and I want to, sell a lot of books and, all of those markers that we talk about. But, I don't want to get morbid, Belinda, but, honestly, when each of us die, which is going to happen, we're,
Right.
we're no, after, unless you're Abraham Lincoln or something, after a very short amount of time, very few people are going to remember you. And after a little more time, nobody's going to. So you might as well really live your life. And if in your head, it's always, am I going to get this? Am I going to get that? Am I going to get this?
Mhm,
That
mhm.
kind of gets in the way of it. And as you say, if you're really present, you're probably going to do a hell of a lot better anyway.
Absolutely. I always say that's the it's advice that I give to moms who are struggling with being a mom and then having a career and feeling guilty no matter which one they're in. If they're at work, they're feeling guilty they should be with their kids. If they're with their kids, they feel guilty that there's so much work that they should be getting done. And I'm like, just be present with whichever one you're in. So schedule your time accordingly, schedule time for your family, schedule time for work. But when you're there, be present,
Yeah.
own it. And
Yeah.
then don't worry about what you're missing. If you're with your kids and schedule that time in, it's scheduled and be present 100% and
I,
enjoy that moment. Enjoy doing whatever activity you chose or whatever outing you chose, or if it's, sitting and reading a book. I mean, like whatever it is, then be present.
That's about the best advice you can give. You ever see those bumper stickers, Belinda? It says, I'd rather be whatever, fishing or
Yeah.
whatever. It's like, what do you mean? Like, you're doing something right now and you'd rather be somewhere else? It doesn't work. It doesn't work.
That's so true. So true. So, this is kind of our signature question of the show, and that is, what does working from your happy place mean to you?
Well, I think what it means to me is that when you find yourself, look, some things in life are hard and some things are, obviously you got to work through certain things, but
Sure.
on a regular basis, if you find that you're just struggling, it's not coming from the right place. The working from my happy place means to me, it's coming from the core of me and it's emanating out. And that doesn't feel like struggling.
Absolutely. So, what advice would you give to a young person? I want to hear, this is two different pieces of advice I would love you to give. So,
Sure.
one for somebody wanting to get started in the arts, But I would also love you to give a little bit of advice to somebody who followed a path that maybe they thought was the right path or that their parents' path wanted them to follow. And they find themselves just like yourself as a lawyer, not really enjoying that, even though that seemed like the smart path to take. And then how do you navigate from that? Like how do you find a passion that you just really want to follow?
Well, first I would go back to something that you said earlier in the podcast, which is that, remember you said that you can be looking at a sunset or whatever, and 5 different people can be looking at it and having 5 different interpretations. The first thing I would say, just to kind of hop onto that train, is, it's possible that as a lawyer or whatever you're doing that you're not enjoying, it's possible that you could just change your perspective about it. I don't want to poo-poo that. I mean, I think that, I know when I was a lawyer, I had worked a long time to get where I was. And for me, I did have to leave at that time and at that level of consciousness that I was at. But I'm not sure everybody would have to leave. I think it is possible, as you said, to change your perspective about something, and it could be real. Now, if you find that that's not working for you, then if you're a planner like my wife, who made a nice career change, she really planned it out, and she didn't have a whole lot of trouble going from a middle manager at a pharmaceutical company to a psychotherapist, which is what she does now. She did it in a very well-planned way. Unfortunately, I was not like that. I just jumped off the train, and that wasn't so easy. I had my difficult times. Like when I told you I was living at my mom's house, all my friends said, "Adios, Robert." I don't know what you're doing, but I think I'm getting off this train. So, it can be difficult. I don't want to say that it can't, that it's just like, follow your bliss and everything's going to be blissful. No, it doesn't necessarily work out that way. So those are my 2 pieces of advice. That it's possible that you might be able to just change your perspective about what you're doing. If you can't, then, and you jump off, it might be difficult, especially at the beginning. For me, it's worked out beautifully. I love what I do, and I'm happy with my life, but it did take a while.
Well, that's great advice. So what new things do you have that you're working on right now? And tell people again the name of your book and where they can find it.
Yes.
And where they can find you, like on social and such.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Robert Markowitz, Markowitz. I am on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm on TikTok, actually, even, and also, and the book is called Clown Shoes. It's available in a bunch of different places, but the easiest place to get it would be on Amazon. Clown Shoes by Robert Markowitz. It's a novel, and it really does bring up a lot of the themes that we've been talking about today. It brings up status drop. Like, it was a huge status drop for me I was in a judge's chambers discussing the fate of all those criminal defendants out there. We were figuring out what their lives were going to be like, me and the district attorney and the judge. And all of a sudden, I'm not doing that anymore. I'm being ushered down to the basement to do a party for 3-year-olds as hired help. Go down there in the basement and don't show yourself to any of the adult guests who are upstairs having hors d'oeuvres. We don't really want to see you up there. Go down to kids, so it's about taking a tremendous status drop. It has a redemption arc in it. It's not. I think it's a really good read, and a lot of people have liked it so far. So I recommend it. What I'm doing right now is I do have a blog with Substack, and I think you can get it from Markowitz at Substack, and just doing the rest of my tour. I'll be up in Cape Cod playing this summer. I'll be down in Cape May and everywhere in between. So this is a little quiet spot in the summer, and then the tour continues.
When will you be in Cape Cod?
I'll be in Cape Cod starting August 10th. I'll be doing both musical shows for kids and book talks. There's a book talk in Truro on the night of August 15th. There's a book talk in a different town in Cape Cod the day before. So there's like 3 musical shows and 2 book talks up there. And then I'll be down in Cape May. I'm going to all those nice summer vacation spots, I have to say.
Awesome. We're going to be probably in the Cape Cod area at the end of August. So I was just curious.
Where do you go? Where do you go?
I've never been. So my daughter is going to be a sophomore this year at Boston Conservatory. And we just decided, you know what, before we take her back to school, let's just go a few days early and check out some sites because we haven't really done that.
That's fantastic. Do you know what town you're going to be in, Cape Cod?
Just yesterday we were online sort of trying to map it out and like look around and try to figure out what we were going to do.
Oh gosh.
So, no.
That's exciting. Well,
yeah.
I'll tell you, my wife and I, Wellfleet, I think, is our favorite place, but everybody has different favorite places.
All right. Well, Robert, this was delightful. Thank you so much for joining us here today and sharing your story with us and sharing your book. A book is always a great accomplishment. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of, it takes a lot of courage to write a book. You're putting yourself out there for the world to see. And so I applaud you in that. And I hope that our folks will go out and grab that and check out all of your social channels. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Belinda. It's really a pleasure to talk to you. I appreciate it.
All right. To all of our listeners out there, thank you for joining us today. We know you have a choice of where to spend your time, and we're so grateful that you chose to spend it with us today. Make sure that you follow or subscribe and leave us a review. We really appreciate those as they do help us in the rankings and help other people find our podcast. The greatest compliment that you can give Robert or myself is to share this with a friend. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time on Work From Your Happy Place.